Welcome to Accelerate OC, the only show focused on the people leading innovation in Orange County. Join our host, Carrie Ransom, in his conversations with the trendsetters, entrepreneurs, investors, and leaders here, because it's time to Accelerate OC.
Good morning. Welcome to Accelerate OC. I'm Carrie Ransom, and thanks always to our engineer, Paul, for making me and my guests sound so good. Today's episode is sponsored by OC4 Ventures, a new venture studio and fund that I'm a part of here. And we are identifying the most exciting and promising tech entrepreneurs in Orange County and supporting them with, as we call it, our 4 C's: capital, coaching, collisions with the great talent that's here, and then also connecting them into our community. So if you're one of those entrepreneurs or you know one, send them my way, or you can reach out to us at oc4v.com. I'm super excited to have Mike Daniel here today. And before we get to hear from him and all the current work that he's doing with the Orange County entrepreneur community, because he is touching, I'm guessing, thousands of them through his work, let me tell you a little bit about Mike. Mike's the regional director of the Orange County and Inland Empire Small Business Development Center Network. That's a lot to chew on, and we'll dig into what exactly that is. But they're assisting aspiring entrepreneurs and current business owners throughout Orange, San Bernardino, and Riverside counties. So we're talking about millions and millions of people across those 3 counties. And for short, that's called the SBDC, Small Business Development Center. And before taking on this regional role, he was also the director of the office in Long Beach for 5 years. So Mike will share more about how the structure works and a lot of the good work that they're doing. And I think the great thing about being in that role now is he also has been and is a business owner, and he's an entrepreneur. He started with a franchise called Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, where he had a store in LA, and then he opened a second one in Long Beach, and eventually he had 20 employees, including managers. And having grown up in retail myself, we'll talk a little bit about that experience. And then he eventually sold the LA store, took a minority position in several other locations as well. But he has the retail bug, clearly, because he's also now an entrepreneur and starting his own brand, another store in Long Beach called Sugar Daddy's Sweet Shop. So he's an entrepreneur, he works with entrepreneurs, and he's managing what I consider to be a critical support system that our government provides to small businesses throughout the country, but particularly here, and we're going to focus here on Orange County today. He sees so much activity. I'm excited to talk about the trends and things that he sees with his perspective. Mike, it's great to have you on Accelerate OC.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Carrie. Appreciate being here.
Awesome. Well, let's get to the starting line. So this might be strange, but I think given some of the things we were talking about before, I don't know that a lot of the audience is maybe familiar with small business development centers and that program. So can you give sort of at the federal level a little bit of background as well as how it touches people here in Orange County?
Yeah, absolutely. The program's been around since the 70s and started at Cal Poly Pomona, and they wanted to see how can we touch more businesses in their region and be much more community feeling and focused. And it had so much success that the federal government, through the Small Business Administration and the SBA, decided let's try and make this program a nationwide program. So they put a bill into Congress, and so in 1984 it became an act, the Small Business Act of 1984. And so there are now SBDC networks across the entire country. There's usually a network that runs each state. California being so big and so large, we're broken into 5 different regions. So we are the state of Orange County Inland Empire, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it is what it is.
That's interesting. Actually, I'll bring that up later. But yeah, really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's a federally funded program. So we are regulated by Congress on our budget. It's a yearly budget. It's been around, like I said, for about 35 years now. We also receive funding from the state of California. I work out of Cal State Fullerton, so Cal State Fullerton is the grant holder for the Small Business Development Center network for this region.
Okay.
So with that, we run a center out of our Irvine location, which is on Banting by the Irvine Spectrum, and then we also subcontract out to 8 other centers. And so what that means is we give money to centers to provide support, whether it be one-on-one consulting, training, anything else that's needed for a small business owner to start, grow, and possibly exit during the lifetime of their business.
That's great. So let's go a little bit deeper there. So if I am thinking about starting a business, what does it cost me to go to I'm playing, I know a little bit about this, but
Yeah.
what does it cost me to come into an SBDC? How do I find out which one might fit me? Do they have different types of profiles or things that they really focus on?
Yeah, absolutely. We have 8 centers. Everyone has a slightly different focus. We have 3 tech centers, and when I start telling you the names, you'll know all of the brands and the names that we work with. But Cal State Fullerton, in our Irvine Center, we really focus on restaurant, retail, hospitality, and then professional services. So dentists, doctors, chiropractors. Our Rancho Santiago Center focuses on very similar things. They also have a strong focus in the Vietnamese community, and run specialized programs there. The Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce runs one of our SBDCs, really focused on Spanish-speaking programming for startup. And then they also are just getting into the mix, and we'll be launching a new program with them where they're going after corporate supplier diversity, meaning we have a lot of corporations in Orange County. How can we say we want to keep those procurement dollars with small businesses in Orange County, and so he has a pretty strong board. Ruben Franco is the CEO, and also he runs our SBDC there. So we're trying to get a lot of the corporations on board to say we are willing to, one, recognize a certification that is Orange County based, and every time we push out an RFP or request for a proposal for painting, for plumbing, for food, for catering, whatever it might be, that we want those dollars to go to small businesses in Orange County. So they'll really kind of be the generator of what that looks like.
That's amazing.
So really interesting. And then we have two tech centers focused in Orange County. We have UCI Applied Innovation. Now it's the Beal Applied Innovation, SBDC. And so they really focus on preparing really clients that are looking for equity capital. And I would say if you kind of break down that realm of, idea to feasibility to proof of concept to commercialization, kind of in that realm, they're really kind of on I received some friends and family money, and now I'm looking for angel investment. How do I put my company together to make it look, and how do you help me attract that? And then on the other side, we have Octane, which is a medical device accelerator in Aliso Viejo. They run our Launchpad SBDC, which they're really helping clients from proof of concept to commercialization, really looking at venture capital and how to prepare their clients for venture capital. The great part about what we do, and back to your original question, was all of our services have already been paid for.
Yes.
So it doesn't cost you anything to come see us, but we are going to put you to work.
Yes.
We are going to work with you and your company. We don't do it for you, but we're going to help educate you on your business, on how to run your company, on how to attain capital. That's what you're looking for. And the great part is there's 100 consultants throughout our network. We are all current business owners or current business experts in various capacities and fields.
That's amazing. And it's such a huge resource for our community that, again, I think we why you're here and we want to draw attention to, and I know friends of mine who have raised considerable amounts of venture capital that have been through Launchpad or been through various SBDC centers. So it is a very low risk, almost risk-free opportunity that people can explore if they really want to.
Absolutely.
So as you think about, you've got these multiple centers that are doing different things. How does the SBA look at the effectiveness of the program? How do you track metrics, which I'm guessing could look very different from center to center?
It absolutely looks different. So the SBA really gives us 5 goals that they want for the funding that they give us. So they're looking at how many businesses we help start, how much capital we help those clients achieve, whether it be debt or equity capital, how many jobs we're helping support. So how many jobs are in each business that we're helping, and then how many clients do we see? Some basic metrics as well of how many clients do you see, how many hours are you spending in consulting. So that's really what they measure. I would say that the biggest measurement that I always have is change in profit, which is a really difficult one to get from a very small business owner who really doesn't always know what that looks like. But that's, to me, that's how you really assess the effectiveness of our program is change in profit, change in growth, right?
Yes.
Hiring employees. So that's,
Yeah, which obviously could be very different for a retail establishment versus professional services versus a high-tech or med-tech high-growth company that may not have profit on the horizon for a long time.
Yeah, 5 or 10 years, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. Well, let's go under the hood a little bit. What kind of trends do you feel like you're seeing, because you've been involved with the SBDCs for quite a while? Do you feel like you're seeing more new starts of businesses? Are you seeing different types of businesses? What are the trends and metrics that you are seeing that are I guess, encouraging at this point.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think what it is, SBDCs, the name itself is a little unique, and I get, federally funded, it doesn't cost anything. What is it? What is it in it for me? And so we've really tried to change what we do and who we are, and kind of had a rebirth of, let's be in the industries that people want to start businesses. Let's touch and let's have expertise in the areas that people need the most help in. So to give you some examples, I mean, I think what we're really seeing are a lot of people that have jobs currently that say, I have this great idea or this innovation, or I could do this better than my current boss and my current company is doing it. How do I get my business started?
Yes.
And rather than going out and signing a 5-year lease at, $5,000 a month for 60 months and committing to $300,000, let's think a little differently. So we built a partnership with the Orange County Marketplace, which is where the Orange County Fairgrounds. And so Saturdays and Sundays is kind of the granddaddy, I think, of them all, of swap meets, farmers markets in Orange County. They have anywhere from 400 to 600 vendors every Saturday and Sunday. And so we have a partnership with them where over a 6-week period, we are training people how to be successful in the marketplace, how to take their product, how to price it, how to cost it, how to get, if it's food, how to get through the health department, which is always its own interesting navigation. And then the marketplace gives them a free weekend to say, let's incubate that idea. Let's really see, do people want what I'm selling? Are they willing to pay for it? Do they want something different? And so happy to say, we just kicked off a program on November 2nd. So we run it every Saturday. And on November 30th, on Small Business Saturday, we will have 40 plus vendors making their first sale at the marketplace.
Wow,
so 40 plus vendors, right? And
that's super cool.
And anywhere from, clothing to food to somebody had a new sealable bag device. I mean, it's everything and anything. And, you're getting 10,000 people at that marketplace on a Saturday and Sunday to come see. Do they want your product? I mean, I think it's an amazing opportunity.
That's really, really cool. It just occurs to me, I'm a bit of an out thinker, but it occurs to me that maybe that could be even something to consider for people in my world that are more likely building tech startups, but have tech products or services, to even be a laboratory for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
To try get that. I always talk about validation or customer testing. That could be a perfect spot to do something.
Absolutely. And we've had a lot of people successfully go through that. We did it last year. We had 10 businesses start through that process. But I mean, for the most part, everybody's making a sale, and it's interesting. I mean, I can think of, one of the clients that we have there, he created a skateboard for toddlers. So it was a little wider so that it wouldn't fall. And he was there probably, I think we kicked off about 9:00 on the Saturday. And by about 12:30, he hadn't sold anything. Nobody was even taking a look. And partly it was because people didn't understand what it was, right? There wasn't the right marketing, it wasn't the right message. So he had his family come down. They started showcasing what it could do. All of a sudden, by the end of the day, he had sold $1,000 worth of skateboards. Now, not going to, make him millions of dollars in that day, but what a great validation of, God, my marketing wasn't right.
Yes.
So now when he mass produces this, he'll know a little bit better, and what a great start, right?
That's right. Well, and that's your great advantage when you're just starting out, is that ability to be nimble and to adjust and iterate. And once you get to a certain size, you have to go through committees and planning and all these processes. But when you're early on, I always say when I meet entrepreneurs early on, it's learn fast, fail fast, adjust. That is your advantage over anybody you're going to compete against.
Absolutely.
So that's a great story of being able to in one day make that kind of learning is really valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's I would say 50% of our clients we see, and one of the questions you asked were how many clients we see about 5,000 clients a year, whether that be through training or that be through consulting. We do about 25,000 hours of one-on-one consulting, which I think that is really why people come to us. Imagine being able to, you're starting a new tech company, you need angel investment. You get a chance to sit down across the table from somebody that is an angel investor in Orange County, and they're going to give you advice on what's wrong with your pitch, or you really didn't do enough due diligence on market size or market validation, or your team's not really strong, or your team's great, but this is what's weak. And so they help you through that whole piece, and then if they like what they see, they might introduce you to some other angel investors, or there's no guarantee of funding, but our 2 tech centers really have done a great job of preparing people for funding and then helping them into the right connections.
Yeah, that's great. So we really have, you mentioned people in jobs that are maybe thinking about starting something. We have this really low unemployment market right now, and yet we also have this really high cost of living.
Yep.
And we're in one of the more expensive markets in the country. And as you think about entrepreneurs and people thinking about starting a business, how do you feel like that is affecting people's willingness or ability to do that here?
I think there's so many opportunities for people to, like we were just talking about the marketplace, to test your product, to go see. I mean, whether you're selling on Amazon, you're, getting into Etsy, now Etsy even has stores. There's one in the shops in Mission Viejo. I think, those types of opportunities are really where people should be starting. Obviously we always get a lot of people that, Orange County being what Orange County is, there's a lot of money in Orange County.
Yes.
People have a lot of equity in their homes. They can start tapping into that. We always say slow down just a little bit.
Sure.
Let's test the market. Let's get into it a little bit more before you jump in, and quit your job. And I think
Sure.
that's what I would always tell somebody is if you want to start your own business, keep your day job,
Yes.
or at least have some secondary source of income before you jump out of that and then you have no money, because it's going to take a while, right? Businesses don't just on a dime all of a sudden start turning a profit.
That's right. Yeah, that's I think a great point of view. So if you think about Orange County, we've talked a little bit kind of around that. We don't have a city center. We don't. The fairgrounds is a great venue like that. There on any given weekend, I would guess maybe a dozen or more swap meets or markets around the county, if not more than that.
About 60, but yeah,
60
60 opportunities.
That. Yeah, that's amazing. But we've got 34 different municipalities, and a lot of people that have come through here or that I've met have said, we're just too spread out. You are covering different regions. Do you see increased cross-pollination? I mean, I sort of love Orange County because I don't feel like our traffic is that bad.
Yeah.
It's all relative, but compared to LA, compared to Chicago where I used to live, I find this to be very easy to get around.
Yeah.
So how do you think about that cross-pollination across the different centers? Because you probably have a better view on that than most.
Yeah, I actually love that there's 34 cities, that maybe there isn't just that one giant city center. You have 34 different opportunities.
That's right.
Right? And so I think if you come about it a little differently, there's 3.2 million people in Orange County. No city is small.
That's
right.
right.
I mean, you take the smallest city and we're still talking 50, 60, 70,000 people. So if let's take retail for instance, I could have 6, 7, 8 locations and never touch the same person.
Sure.
If I'm in tech, and I just got back from a conference really focused on GovTech. So as governments are trying to be smart cities and smart counties and regions, if you have some device and just to give you a quick example, there's a group that has started up what they're calling GovTech. So rather than businesses having to compete for an RFP through a city or through a county, what they do is they work with the county or the city and they bring it down a level and they say, here's what we're looking for. I need 8 to 10 startups. Who's ever interested, we're going to put you through an 8 to 10 week test. Whoever has the best product gets the contract.
Sure.
That's amazing.
Yes.
And so what they showed us was a winner of, trash collection in San Francisco, right? And so do I need to go pick up those trash cans every single day? Or what they created was a smart device on the trash cans that tells you when it needs to be picked up. Just a great opportunity, right?
Yes.
So if you kind of take that back to Orange County, you have 34 different ways of doing that, right? So you might not be able to sell in Yorba Linda, but God, you could sell in Costa Mesa or you could sell in Irvine. And so I think it's a better opportunity.
That's a great point of view. How do you think about the things that we're missing right now to help bring that perspective to the entrepreneurs?
Yeah, and I think there's so many people doing business development or touching small business. The problem is there's not just one voice.
Yes.
You have 50 different organizations all doing it, but not collaborating together.
Yes.
And interestingly enough, we're partnering with Wells Fargo through the SBDC on November 19th to start that conversation.
That's great.
Of, what do we really need here? Do we need a CDFI? And if you're not familiar with it, a community development financial institution that lends anywhere from $25,000 to $150,000. That's a little less stringent than going to a traditional lender. Do we need an economic development
is the
collaborative?
answer.
Oh yes, no, absolutely. And I'll talk a little about funding and what we
Sure.
do because I think it's a little different than what people are used to. Do we need an economic development collaborative to really be that voice, to kind of take in what all these cities in the region is doing and push it out, right? I mean, you often see stats on big business and what they're doing in Orange County, but you rarely see small businesses, right? And if you take into account that 99%, as you probably know the stats, are all small businesses, and small business can mean anything from a 5-person business to a 1-person business to 500 employees in a small manufacturing firm. Everybody's small, and to that point of we need a voice for small business somewhere, and so the hope is that this will start that.
That's great. Well, include me as somebody who'd be happy to be a supporter and participant.
Awesome.
However I can. So you've been that small business owner. We were talking a little bit before that you started with a franchise model, And I had a conversation with one of the large franchisors recently, and they kind of reminded me that in some respects, a franchise model maybe isn't the best design for a true entrepreneur because they've got a proven system. And it's a great model for a business owner and maybe a great way to even get started. So I'd love to hear a little bit more on your journey from starting with a franchise concept, growing that, and then ultimately deciding to create your own brand.
Yeah, that was an interesting journey. So my parents started a Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory when I was 13. And so downtown Huntington Beach, right when the pier reopened, and got a chance to learn from the two of them. And, that's a better education than any education you could pay for. But saw kind of what they did, which, they were true single store operators. That's really kind of what they saw. That was their vision. They didn't want to grow. My brother was a couple years older than me. He graduated. He opened a store in Long Beach. I swore, I went to Cal State Fullerton. I swore when I was graduating, I was done. I was going to get a real job. I had a job actually lined up with Anheuser-Busch to go out to St. Louis and learn a little bit about, selling beer. And it just so happened right before I left, Rocky Mountain, the corporation, had 50 company stores, and they were unloading them. You had to be an existing franchisee to get into them. So I got into a store in Manhattan Beach through my parents, and at 22, had a store.
Great start.
Yeah, and you think you know everything about business, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I went to business school. I was in it for 10 years, and how fast you learn. Yes. And what a great opportunity to really learn. Then opened up a second. So that was a failing store. Turned it around in about a year.
Oh, wow.
Made it successful. So opened a second store in Belmont Shore, which is in Long Beach as well. And it just so happened at my store in Manhattan Beach, somebody had come in and said, "I want to buy your store." I'm like, I think at the time I was like 27. I go, "Well, it's not for sale. Thank you." And he walked out. I'm like, well, that wasn't too smart. I should have at least told him a number just to see if he was even willing to pay it. And this is right as the kind of the trend of pink berries were coming in. And it was a copycat. It was a Cefe, which is a South Korean brand. And so he's looking to open up a few. He's coming from Canada. And so thank God he came back the next day. And sure enough, he said, "I'm still interested." I said, "Perfect. I have a number for you." I had all night to think about it. And so I gave him a number. It probably would have taken me about 10 years to make that, running that store. And so he paid me, didn't even go through escrow. Just here's a check. And I walked away.
Awesome.
And so it allowed me to get into other stores. And, I still had another store. But, you learn so much from running a business. And, I would say my biggest struggle and what I try to teach people is going from 1 to 2. From being a store owner to being a true owner of a multi-unit locations is difficult, right? Because I'm a type A person. Most entrepreneurs and most small businesses are type A. They do everything, and you don't learn to actually train people. And God, how much bigger your business can grow if you train people the right way.
That's right. And bring in the people. If you're not a natural teacher, trainer, manager, to bring in those people that are, and finding those, and it is. I think that was a great lesson for me to learn growing up in retail with my family's business, was just being able to see, okay, these are the people that really have a lot of growth opportunity here. These are people that are just going to keep doing that same job over and over, and that may be okay, but that you need all kinds to really make that work and to grow over time as well, if that's part of the desire. If you wanted to do all the jobs yourself, that's always an option, but I think doing that because you choose to is probably going to be more enjoyable than doing it because you're in the way.
And to your question on franchising, it was a great opportunity to really learn systems and processes, and I think that's what most businesses lack, are those systems and processes. And I think what people often overlook is all these franchises are small business owners as well. They're not this large company. It's a small business owner running it, and they own it, and it's affected in many different ways. So I learned a lot, and I sell chocolate. I like chocolate, but I really love candy, and I get excited about candy. And so that's when I opened up a candy store and said, can I make a model off of what I already know and start a store that could then turn into its own franchise? And that's where came up with Sugar Daddy Sweet Shop. Now, you're going to Google that. Make sure you type in all Sugar Daddy Sweet Shop and not just Sugar Daddies, because you get a whole different
Yes, that makes sense. Yes. And I did look at it. I'm excited to come visit at some point. I try to stay away from it, but I have 3 kids, and they are definitely candy fans. So we will definitely make a trip up there. So what you talked about, learning to go from 1 to 2, which I agree. Growth is often a very, very difficult thing to manage. What any other really key lessons in the difference, I guess, that you've seen between a franchise and doing it your way?
It's great to have autonomy to kind of do whatever you want, but some of those systems are put in place for a reason. And I think even if you're going at it without a franchise model, you still need to look at what others are doing and kind of look at what makes it professional, right? I mean, and you could walk into a business and say, God, that's professionally done, or kind of we're taking that on the fly and putting it together, or you see a process that's not correct, or just how interaction with customer service. There's so many things I think you can take from it, and it's like an education, right? I mean, you're educated in business through business schools, and you take that education and you make it your own, and I think that's what I could probably take from it the most.
Sure, that's great. So Orange County, compared to the other places that you're covering here in the Inland Empire as well, talk to me about what do you see that's unique about Orange County versus the Inland Empire, Riverside area, and what do you see as the same?
Yeah, I think it's the same ambition. Everybody wants to start a business. Everybody wants to run their own business. Everybody that's in business wants to grow their business. I think what we see across all three counties, and keep in mind, I mean, San Bernardino is the largest county in the country. Riverside and Orange County are in the top 10. I mean, these are large counties and large regions, and 7.5 million people across them. I mean, Californians think differently just to begin with. I think they're go-getters, and I think that's what it takes. It's a nonstop go-getting. Whatever I need, I'm not going to stop. Versus, going to kind of pick up my business today, and I'm going to set it down tomorrow and kind of think through it. I think most of them, the biggest need that I see, especially in Orange County, we just did a program with the Irvine Chamber called it Level Up. It was a 4-month program taking existing businesses that have a couple employees to many employees, doing $500,000 to $5 million was kind of the threshold. We had 12 businesses go through it, no one in the same industry, and everyone lacked the exact same thing. And it's not that they lack it, it's just that they don't know how to use it, and it's all around financials, right? It's how do I use my P&Ls to really run my business, how to look at numbers, and that's always the biggest, we kind of talked about KPIs and key performance indicators, and that was a blank stare, right? I mean, so how do they even judge growth? How do they know what they're doing? If you're going to push out an advertisement even, how do you know if it's successful, right? So it's just measuring and looking at things a little differently. I kept asking the group every time we'd meet, I said, are you more interested in growing the top line or the bottom line? I said, the top line. They kept telling me the top line. And finally, we showed them, you can grow, you can triple the size, and your bottom line might still shrink.
That's right.
So why is that important to grow the top line? And, I always get, and we're at that time of year where people start thinking, God, I want to double my sales next year, with no real intent of how to make that happen. And I say, planning is so huge, and you don't need a business plan the way you go online in a 100-page business plan. That's not how you need to grow your business, but you need to understand your numbers and have those dictate growth. That's see the gaps and see the weaknesses. And so it was a great program. 4 months. Amazing. Yeah, we had businesses growing. I mean, we had anywhere from a broker to I think the highest grossing business that we had was a plumbing business. 25 employees. I think they were about $3 million a year in sales. Didn't know how to grow, right? And didn't know how we got there, but amazing at his business and his craft, but not necessarily the operations of the business.
And what is it that you think keeps people from getting comfortable with the financials or really digging into those numbers? Is it just a fear of what might be there, or is it just a general uncomfortable position with numbers in general?
I think you're never taught what it looks like, so they're fearful of what they get. And so I think a lot of the times they go to their accountant, they get these numbers, they put them in a drawer, they don't know how to analyze it, they don't know what the numbers are telling them. And honestly, I think it's just a fear of the unknown. They all know exactly what the numbers tell them. They just don't know maybe the interrelation of a balance sheet and a cash flow statement and what all this means. And God, I mean, we had somebody that did a lot of construction and tree trimming and things like that, and his receivables were 90 days out. He wanted to grow, but unfortunately where he wanted to grow, receivables would probably be pushed out another 30 or 60 days. So now he's going to take on and have to cash flow $400,000 a month. They don't understand how that relates. And sometimes, structured growth is good. Sometimes just crazy growth isn't always good.
Sure. Yeah, I think that is, and a program like that, is this something, was it a test that you're going to expand?
It is,
what?
Yeah. Okay. So we'll be running it again at the Irvine Chamber. So in February, so if people are interested, they can definitely sign up with us. And it is a vetting process. We're doing it in Brea starting in late January, but we'd like to roll it out all across the region. I mean,
That's
we really
awesome.
see kind of touching all parts of, I mean, I know you said there wasn't a lot of traffic in Orange County, but travel is still a barrier.
Sure.
And so we're trying to limit that. And so how can we be in Huntington Beach? How can we be in Brea? How can we be in Fullerton? How can we be in Yorba Linda? How can we be in Irvine, San Clemente? How can we touch all these different places?
Sure. That's great. So one of the things I often ask the guests on here is how can they get involved? So with regard to the SBDCs, they certainly could come there to get consulting and help on their business. Are there other things that you're looking for, or things that the community that listens to this could participate or help you with?
Absolutely. I would say, one, you can definitely come see us and we'll help you in anything that you might need. But if you are an expert or you are a business owner looking to help other businesses, we always are hiring new consultants. Everyone at our centers, they're all part-time employees, and most of them are independent contractors that are here for a couple hours a week, anywhere to 20 or 30, and they're working on their own business. But it's amazing to sit across the table and actually help people. And I think that's what everybody loves about it. They're really kind of moving these businesses forward. And as we look at the landscape, I mean, I don't know if you talk about numbers all the time, but 80% of businesses have no employees. 80%. So 4 out of 5 businesses have 0 employees in their business. How do we just get people to get to 1? And so and I think it comes back to planning and structuring and, and as we talked about employees and independent contractors, whatever that might be, we won't talk about the laws of AB5 and kind of how that's changing the landscape. But how do we help people understand that 1 employee might double their bottom line and kind of just thinking differently?
That's great. Well, Mike, it's been a real pleasure, and unfortunately, Paul's giving me the time sign over here, so we've got to go to our final lap here on Accelerate OC. And I always ask to end, what's a key lesson you've learned or piece of advice you'd love to share with the audience? So if you think about other business people here in particularly Orange County, that's where I focus here on Accelerate OC. What's a key lesson you've learned or piece of advice you'd love to give?
Yeah, I mean, I'll come back with a phrase of think big and plan smart. Right? I mean, you can have the biggest thoughts in your mind, but put it down on paper, really kind of educate yourself. And like I said, go back to your P&Ls, look at your numbers and say, God, if I did 20% more in sales, what is that going to do to my customers? What's that going to do to my cash flow? What's that going to do to my current people in my business? And really kind of plan smart. And so I'd love to help you in any way that, I'm talking to all the people out there, they're listening, love to help you in your business. And like I said, we're here anytime you need us.
That's great. Well, I hope that the audience will take you up on that. And thank you so much for joining us here today on Accelerate OC and sharing all the great work that you do and that your team does within the SBDC network. From my perspective, and I think everybody will agree, you're certainly doing your part to accelerate OC. Welcome to the family.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
You've just listened to Accelerate OC. Join our live recordings every Tuesday morning at accelerateoc.com or listen, like, and share anytime from your favorite podcast spot. Let's accelerate OC together.